Yeah, I'll be starting in a couple of minutes, guys. I'm setting up stuff right now. Hopefully I don't have it backwards, so I'll show you what I'm doing, I guess, right now. So I'm just experimenting to see how the connections work with Klipper. So one of the things I did is, obviously I loaded Raspberry Pi, did the updates, and just started doing the install for Klipper, which I'll show you right now. So right now I'm inside Klipper, and I'm checking to make sure everything's good. Apparently, I've got a strange message at the bottom I'm trying to see. But it says installing system script at the bottom, so it's going to be a couple minutes, probably. I don't know how well this is going to work on the Pi, so I'll look at questions while it's going on. So if you want to pop something in the chat, I can take a look at it. But essentially, the whole experiment today is to see what's going on with Klipper if it works on the Raspberry Pi 02W. So essentially what it's doing is an install, and it looks like I'm actually complete. So what you have to do now is go into the make menu. So I gotta look this up real quick because I don't remember it exactly off the top of my head. So Klipper, let's do it up here. So in the install, what you can see is you got to go to the Klipper menu and then do Make Menu. So if we go back over to TerraTerm, paste these two commands in, hit enter on the second, it'll bring it into the Make Menu. So I'm going to hit the space bar. Hey, then I'm going to arrow down, I'm going to right arrow. I'm going to look for the LPC 1768. So that's what we currently have. So we're going to use USB, so I'm not going to mess with that, but that's the configuration allegedly. So I'm going to hit the escape button, then I'm going to say save yes, and I hit enter, then I'm going to type make, and I'll clean this up so you can actually see what I'm doing. Let me just backspace over this. So I'll type make, and it's going to build allegedly the build. Now I'm connected over here, so I got to open up FileZilla real quick. Inside FileZilla, as soon as it opens, you'll see that there's a couple of settings that we're going to have to do. But we're almost done with the build here. Looks like it just built. So we're going to have to go back over to FileZilla and find the build. So it's 192.168.1.5. Username is Pi. Password is Raspberry. And then the port is 22. And now we'll be able to see it, I hope. So we're going to have to find the Klipper directory. Then it's the out. And inside the out, we have Klipper.bin. So we'll carry that over to our downloads. Then we'll go back over to downloads. And we'll rename this, or copy it first, and then paste. And what we'll do is we'll rename this one firmware.bin. And then we'll see what happens with the file load. So I'm going to have to go over to the desktop for a second. And on the desktop, I'm going to pop out this drive. Then I'm going to put it in the actual connector over here. And I'm going to place this in the computer. And I don't know what's on this, so this will be interesting. So there is a firmware.cur. I'm just going to delete that for the moment because I don't know which board it's for. I'm going to go to downloads. I'm going to copy the firmware.bin and send it to the D drive. So it's on there. And I'll show you what I'm doing. Sorry. So I basically just copied firmware.bin by doing a send to USB and a replace in this case. And now it's over here. So I'm going to pop this out and put it back on the workbench. So we'll put it in here. And we're going to fire it up in just a second. I just had to find the cord. So we're going to do it through the Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to plug this side in and plug the other side into here. And it's not powering up, so I'm going to unplug it for a second, move the USB power over, and then try it again. And apparently got something screwed up, so let's take a closer look at here. Let's see, I think it's USB power here. There we go. The light over here gives away it's powering. So let's go back over to the Raspberry Pi and see if we can see it. So we have to actually do the instruction for this. So we've already done the make. So now we're going to see if we can see it. This is a listing of what's in this particular directory. It may not show up, but let's see. So it doesn't say it has anything in it. So let's see where we are. Present working directory. We're in Klipper. So if we change directory to dev, and then we can see if there's a serial in there. There appears to be, so it says serial 1. So let's try this command with a 1, and there's nothing. So there's something wrong with our install, which is fine. So we'll do a search again. We'll change directory to serial. Yep, serial 1. Well, let's try it this way. Change directory, highlight this, copy it, and it pastes it down there. And it says basically there's nothing there. So let's check to see. Sorry, you didn't see what I'm doing. Basically, I'm trying to see right here what's going on with the directories. So what I'm going to have to do is pop out the drive and see if it changed, to see if it loaded. So I'm going to pop this out, power this down, pop this back into the USB reader for the SD, place it back on the computer. On the computer, hang on a second. Apparently I can't transition, so we'll do it this way. So over here, we're going to go back over to the drive. It says firmware.cur, so we know it loaded. We just don't know why it's not showing up. So I'm going to put it back in. So I'll pop it out of the computer. I'll place it in here. Plug it back in. And we'll try the command again. Apparently I've got an issue on the Raspberry Pi, it looks like. So I'm going to reboot the Pi. So I'm essentially going to pull the power. I'm going to plug the power back in. It's going to take a second to boot. And then we'll see what's going on the screen. I'll look at the chat for a second. Well, it's kind of quiet in here. Hey, Marcella. So for those that don't know, there's actually a chat room that I kind of maintain. It's called Discord, and it's a good place for people to find answers. I'll bring it over so you can see it. So we have a Discord chat in here. In general, most of the people that have questions usually get them answered in here. There are specific ones for like the TFT displays for the Big Tree Tech, printer quality, BL Touch, and Klipper. And then I put the instructions for Klipper at the very beginning. So if you go to the very top, there's some of the stuff I talk about. Of course, the very top is way up there now, so maybe that's not a good thing to show you. But essentially, what we're doing right now is just booting this back up to see if we can get back into it. So I'm going to do teraterm, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So teraterm, got to bring this over so you can see it on the screen. I'm going to do file, new connection. Hopefully it's the right IP address. And at the moment, we're not able to connect. So something has happened. So let's figure that out. So I'm going to have to jump into another screen that you're not going to be able to see for a second so I can look at something. Essentially, I'm checking my router to see if it's there. And if it is there, then I'll be able to log into it. Of course, I can't even get my address right here. So essentially, I'm looking for connected devices. You can do the same thing, hopefully in DOS, which is CMD. This one I'll show you. So if you do an ARP -A with the space in between, it says that 1.5 is on the network, so maybe I got the address wrong. So let's try that again with TerraTerm. Okay, new connection 5, SSH, continue. Maybe it wasn't fully booted. So Pi and Raspberry, then enter. And now we're back in. So let's try that command again that we found on this website and see if it works. Of course, it's not letting me paste too easy. No such file or directory, so ls. Wow, there's some delay going on here. Interesting. So there's a little bit of lag when I try and interface with this. Let's see if we can see what's going on here. We're in the Pi directory. So let's change directory to dev. See what's in here. Change directory to serial1. Enter. And it looks like I'm spelling it correctly, so that's not the issue. So it might not work on the Pi for the Pi 02W, but I'm not sure yet. So let me double check the chat. Okay, let me minimize this. So the next thing we'll do is we'll check make config again. So we're going to go over to here. I'm actually going to do one of these steps again. It's up in here, because sometimes this is an issue. And we'll see if it works. It might have a slight delay, or it might not work on this configuration at all. But let's see what happens. So there's the first issue. It won't let me run the command, so I'm going to say sudo, enter. Then I'm going to say raspberry, enter. Let's see, you might not have to restart your login session after doing that. You may have, or might have to. Interesting. Okay, let's see if we can try the other one. So I'm going to change directory back to Pi and go back over the directions because something I'm amiss here. So we got git clone, and then we have this, which is a script. So I'm going to rerun that. It's not letting me run it, so let's change directory. Let's see what we got here. Change directory again. Of course, there's no more directories to go to, so Can't remember which one it's actually sitting in, so we'll try a reboot real quick. So give me a second to power cycle this. I think I got it in a bad state, or it's just got issues. But apparently it's not working too well. So let's go over to the workbench and try pulling the power. Let's put it back in here. It only takes about a minute to reboot. Now it does work great with OctoPrint, but I've never seen it lock up so much in this environment after loading Klipper on it. So essentially it's going to send us to our default state when we get back into it. So I'll check on the chat while this is going on. And then we'll go back in and see what's going on the Raspberry Pi. So let me see where I am here. Okay, over here, we'll do TerraTerm. It's gonna pop up on the wrong screen. I'll drag it over for you to see it. File new. Everything's set there. Continue. Pi. Then Raspberry. Enter. Looks like we're in a good state at the moment. So let's go back over and see if we can get the instructions to work here. So we're going to do a git. Hopefully it'll allow me to do this. Apparently there's a slight delay in me pasting. Oh, let's try copying again. Oh, there it goes. So let's back off here. Press enter. Let's see. Fatal destination path. Klipper already exists and is not empty. So let's see if we can see it. So there is a Klipper file. So we'll change directory to Klipper. Then we'll list it. And what we'll do is we'll do a make file. Or make config. Let me see what it is. Make menu. And we'll see what the config is. So looking at this, we can see that it says that it's 100 megahertz. SmoothieWare, that doesn't make sense. Communications, USB. So let's try this again. So we're gonna exit, say yes, then we'll do a make, and we're gonna have to grab this all over again. It may have thought it was a different board we're working with. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go back over to FileZilla, do a quick connect, go to Klipper, or yeah, Klipper. Then we'll go to the out file. We'll see if we've got the most recent build, which is 236. So let's go back and see if it's finished. Okay, it looks like there's a new file in there, so let's refresh. Go to Klipper, out. Okay, so I guess the file name hasn't changed. So we'll just drag this across. We'll overwrite. Then we'll go back over to our downloads folder. We'll delete this one. We'll copy this one. We'll paste it right here. Rename this to firmware. Press enter. Then we'll go back over to the desktop. Power this down. Pop out the drive. Put it inside the SD card reader. And drop it in the computer. Go back over to the computer. Find the firmware.bin. Where did it go? There it is. Send it to the drive. Go back over to the desktop. Pop up the drive. Drop it in here. And load it. Give that a second. Then we'll go back over and see if we can actually get it to work. So let's try the LS again. In here. And no such file. So there's something we're missing on this configuration. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the wiki for this and see if we can find anything. Frequently asked questions. Where's my serial port? So essentially this is talking about what we're already doing. So it's a make issue, I know that. But I don't know if it's in this particular configuration. So we're gonna have to look around a little. Installation configuration, configuration reference, checks, bad beveling, pressure advanced TMCs, slicer, skew correction. Okay, so that doesn't give us a lot of information. So let's try the Googles. Klipper, and then we'll say SKR 1.3. So let's see if we got here. Enable low level SmoothieWare. Use USB communication. Interesting. How old is this? I have the feeling that this information might be stale. Trying to find a date. But it looks like we got the steps, so let's try TerraTerm. So microprocessor, there's only 2 to choose from, and we have the right one. Smoothie board. I guess that's the only option we have because there is no other LPC. So let's enable Smoothie board. Only have that one we can work with. Not sure about that. Let's see what we got here. Apparently we can't use that. So it might not work in this situation, in which case we're going to have to go to a Raspberry Pi and try that. But I have a feeling it's going to be... The video is low quality. Hang on a second here. Let me check the settings. Let's see, settings. Output. Well, unfortunately I can't change a lot of the settings. Let me see if I can up the bit rate. Okay, how's that look? Check on the chat here. Does the video look okay, or is it low quality still? Okay, let me see if I can make this a little bit better with an individual screen. Let's see, Terraterm. Does that look any better? Alright, well, let's see what we can do here. Try make again, but I don't think this is going to do anything. While that's going on, I'm going to see if I can dig out a different Raspberry Pi. It's going to take me a second to grab one. Okay, I got another Raspberry Pi that I'll show you. And we'll see if we can do it from this one. Let me just get to the right place. So I'm going to power this down for a moment. Disconnect that. Get this out of the way. And this one, we can actually go direct USB. And then we're gonna have to power it with a different source, so give me a second. Okay, this one is there. So this is a Pi 4. It's going to take me a second to get this configured because it doesn't have Klipper on it. So what we're going to have to do is actually remote into it. So let's see if we can see it on the desktop. So if we go to DOS and ARP for it, it may take a second to load. So let's see if we can see it. Okay, let me see if I can see it another way. I'm just logging into my router to see if there's connected devices. This one should automatically connect to the network. Okay, it is online, so let's see if we can see it over here. Okay, we don't see it, so let's try and ping it. It's 192.168.1.7. And it's active now. So let's see if it ARPs. It does ARP now. So let's go back over to TerraTerm. Two seconds, I gotta get this over so you can see it. We'll do a file new, change this to a 7. We'll continue, we'll do Pi and Raspberry. Okay, we have to do an update on this probably, so it's gonna be sudo apt update. Password for Raspberry. It's going to take a few seconds. Okay, so essentially I have to say yes. Hang on, I gotta be on the right screen to say yes. Yes again. So all I'm doing is doing an update on this. Not sure if this one is 64-bit or 32-bit. I think it's 32-bit. This is gonna take a few minutes to grab everything. But essentially we're getting ready to put Klipper on this. So now it's going to say upgrade. And this may take a little bit more time. And yes again. Actually, it might be a little bit faster on this one. Then we got to go back over the directions for Klipper. Let's see, for install. We're probably going to do this first. So we'll go back over to here, see how long we got left. And all we're trying to do is understand if the actual build worked for the original one on the Raspberry Pi 02. But I'm getting the feeling that it won't work with Klipper. It may work with other flavors of Klipper, being, I forgot what the name of the other one is right now, but it's a different version that doesn't run on the OctoPrint. So this is going to take a few minutes. We'll just let that go on. Let me see if I can fire up the other printer while you guys are waiting. Okay, that printer is active right now, so Let's see if we can see it over here. Let me just pull it up real quick. I have to check the IP address because it might have moved around, but I think it's 1.2. The leases should be indefinite, so let's try it real quick. Yep, it's there. Raspberry. Okay, so is the camera working? Yes. So right now we can do a bunch of different things. We can connect, we can print a calibration cube. We can actually look at the whole screen. But let's go back and see how this is going. That's still going. So we'll go over here and I'll kick off a print. Which I'm waiting on. So let's check the temperature. Apparently it's not heating up yet. That's kind of a concern. Now there might be a connectivity issue, or this is still rising. So it looks like the heat bed's still heating. But as you can see, the temperature moves right in here. Correlates down into here for the actual temperature. So it has to get to 60 degrees Celsius before it'll actually turn on the other heater being red. And that's your extruder. They call it a tool. And we can set up a time lapse if we want before the print. Currently it's active, but you can turn it on over here. And of course you can see the temperature is moving inside here. And you can suppress some of the stuff just by clicking. So there's not a lot of messages going on unless you do this. But not a lot's going to happen for a little bit on this, so let's go back and check on the other thing. Looks like we're getting close. Unfortunately, I'm burning up a lot of bandwidth between the computers, so hopefully this will speed up. So what we might do is actually install Klipper on the other printer. So the address of that one I think is 7. So hopefully this will come up in a second. Okay, it's a different password on this one. So for this one, to install Klipper, click on the wrench, go to software, not software update, but plugins. Get more, Klipper. Okay, it's OctoClipper. This might take a second. It wants us to restart. Unfortunately, we can't do that until it finishes. So we gotta wait on this. So let's see how the other printer is doing. So they're both at temp now, so we should be seeing something move in a second. There it goes. Now I don't know how well this is going to print today because I think the filament might be a little bit too moist. But it was having issues the other day, so let's see if it's okay. This filament's been out for about almost a year. So there might be printer issues. It looks like there possibly could be some. Okay, it's got adhesion issues, so it might be out of cal. So that's something I gotta fix. So one of the ways we can do that is by doing a calibration print. But you can see that it's a little bit of a mess right now. And that's because the surface is too far away for it to print. So one of the ways I can fix this is to turn one of the bolts and loosen it to the surface, or I can just stop the print for a second. Then I'll just raise this up and I'll move this over to the XY home. Then I'll pull that off, and then I gotta get an actual calibration print. So if you go to Thingiverse and you look for squares, I think it is. There's this one that I like a lot. You can download the file here. Remember to tip your developers. And then it's downloaded, so we need an image file. So on this, what we have to do is find one that we want to use. Now these all look like they're JPEGs, which is not correct. So let's go to Downloads. Let's see, Image Files. Nope. It's the other one. Files. So these are the files we're going to work with. They programmed it in OpenSCAD. So we'll open up Cura. If I don't have it already open. It's going to take a second to load. But let's check on the update over here. It's still going. So for Cura, we actually have to slice it. And I'm waiting for Cura to appear where you can see it. There we go. So we're going to go over to the Downloads folder. I have to extract it first, so that's probably why we're not seeing it. So right click, extract all, extract. Should give us a bed leveling folder. So now we can go over to Cura, bed leveling, files. We'll try the one over here. So that's what it looks like for bed leveling. So you can see what's going on with each corner. Now it's not doing anything in the center. So let's try a different file. Now it's trying to open up two. So we'll delete this one. Delete this one, hopefully. Or we'll select all and delete them. Let's try this one. So there's not a real good one to work with. Super high quality we don't care about, so we'll do 0.2. We'll slice. Save to disk. Open in a folder. It's going to be this right here. So let me minimize this a little. Bring up the browser. And I'm going to drop it in here to actually print. So I got to find the folder real quick. So just drag it and drop it. Now we have bed leveling. So I'm going to click start on that. I have to walk over to the printer for a moment and clean it. Now it might print perfectly fine, I don't know. But we're going to have to give that a moment to see. The outer edge usually prints better. There might be a little bit of a bow inside of here. But if it doesn't work correctly, there's little arrows on these that'll say to move up and down. Usually I try and press it into the surface until I find the right consistency all the way around. So these are either up or down based on the rotation. So let's check on this over here. Apparently something weird's going on. So apparently there's some kind of message file that's going on. It's the first time I've ever seen that happen, so I guess it's updating the possible OS. So let's see what's going on with the printer. Nothing. Temperature, it's almost to where it needs to be. So it's going to start to print. So I might walk in the other room and start churning stuff. You won't be able to hear me while I'm doing that. But I can actually calibrate it while it's moving if I don't trip over everything in front of it. So let's see what we got here. So let me go over and adjust it. Apparently something weird's going on. So if we look at this, there was a weird temperature reading over here. That might be a thermistor issue, where it jumped down and then shot back up. So the printer may have auto shut down. So let's see what we got in here. Or it just finished printing. Awesome. See what's going on here. So let's go back over here and see what this is. I'm going to thin this out a little. This probably is not going to make a difference, but there's something weird going on the printer, so I'm going to go back over to the printer real quick. Looks like it thinks it's finished, so I'm going to delete this one, bring this back up, copy this one over. See if we can overwrite it. And try again. For the ramps, let's see, is there a possible way to continue where you left off with Arduino Mega ramps during a power loss situation? You need a way to save the actual last thing sent. There are tools they make for other printers. This one I'm not sure of, but for the SKRs, there's a way to do it where you can maintain the memory on the actual board with an external power supply, like a tiny UPS. The only thing is I don't show you guys UPS because they're kind of dangerous to work with because the electronics are exposed on them. But I think I have one here someplace. I just have to figure out where I placed it. But they can discharge on a human being in a not good way. So I try and avoid showing you guys how to work with them. Essentially, I need to generate a box to put it in to make it safer. So one of these days I might show you guys how to do that. But for now, it can be quite a challenge to show it safely. So let's see if I can find BTT GitHub. They might have one up here. UPS. So they have a mini UPS. It's for 24 volts. Won't work on a ramps naturally because ramps are naturally 12 volts. There's a data sheet on something here. So let's see what we got here. So that's the data sheet for one of the parts in it. I'm trying to see if they have instructions on setting it up. This is actually the chip on the board. So let's see, hardware, PDF. So it looks like that's the board that it's on. Let's check on the printer real quick. It's probably not going well on this one. You can hear it clicking from the other room, which means it's too close to the surface. And apparently it's done printing. Let's see what's going on here. So apparently, if we look at the G-code viewer, it only printed one layer. So there might be an issue with the actual print. Let's try something more complex. So I have a cube in here. Light clips might work. That one's somewhat long, and that'll print in the center of the actual surface. On the actual other Raspberry Pi, I have a calibration thing here. Just gotta find it. Test prints, bed leveling. So I'm gonna download this. Show in folder, and I'll copy this over to the other one because I know this one works. So let's do this. Now, which one did I copy over? 1205. I'm just going to delete both of these real quick so I'm not confused. And then I'm going to print it. After I cancel the other one, that is. Now it'll take a second to clear. So let's check over here, see what's going on. Okay, it looks like it's got a ways to go. So let's try a refresh on this. And we still don't have access. So, one way around this problem is to do a reset like so. Now we'll lose communication for a second. This one we need to restart as soon as this finishes. It looks like we're only at 43%. Could also be that I'm burning up all my network traffic between all the different things, so this could be a little fun. So this will change when it's ready to reconnect. There we go. Apparently it's going to take a little bit to get connected. Oh, let's see what's over here. Well, this is moving a little slow. Okay, it's reconnecting, bed leveling. See what's going on with temperature. So it set the temperature. Looks like we're already at 50 degrees Celsius. So this one's gonna pop any second. So you can watch them down here as well. And then this one will actually change to a different temperature in a second, as soon as this reaches temp. So you'll see this go up. And that's the temperature it wants to be at, so it's going to rise to that. Let's see if this is done. Well, 48%. So temperature's starting to rise. Remember, this is probably going to be a mess on the surface because I've got to figure out how to level it. Might not go so well because it's behind a camera right now, so it's kind of hard to reach around it. So we're at 52% here. Let's check on the relay real quick. So PDF, PDF, PDF. I don't know if these are going to be directions, but you can see there's a bunch of caps that go here for capacitors. There's some resistors on this that are surface mounted. Then there's the voltage. So the capacitors are holding the actual power. So the danger in using this when it's exposed like this is if you make contact with any of these, you might cause it to rapidly discharge. It might just give you a shock, but I'm more worried about the amps. So they do give you models to work with here. Well, this is a picture of it, but you can see the caps right here, all these blue ones. And then there's looks like a controller down there. I'm not sure which it is. Let's see if we get another view here. Here's from above, you can see the surface mount resistors. But I don't know if they make a package to put this inside of. Let's see what this PDF looks like. Apparently we can't see anything. But I can hear the printer working right now. So step file, this might be something to actually print, but let's check on the other printer real quick. Okay, so there was something wrong with the actual file that I just rendered in Cura, but you can see that it's printing mostly well. Now I'm guessing there's some issues over in here that we're gonna see, and that means I gotta turn the wheels to actually adjust them. So it might not adhere too well in this section of the actual print. So it looks like it's adhering though, so that's a good sign. Now it's going to draw some more squares in the center. You can see that there might be something going on back here, but it's hard to tell. But I think it is printing correctly back there with these lines. So the printer is most up. You can see there's an issue right there. So that means the surface is too far away when you see this. So it's going to be probably dragging a little piece along with it while it's printing. That looks like it's stuck on the tip of the print head. So let's check on this again, see if we're any closer. No, not closer yet. But it is moving now. So let's just give this a second to run. Looks like it's starting to speed up. Okay, it looks like it's almost done. So as soon as this finishes, I'm going to do a reboot on it because I installed something in the background in OctoPrint for Klipper. And then we're going to see if we can get this to work on the actual other one. We'll do a direct connect, which we currently already are. So this should be done probably in a minute or two. But we'll check on the printer while that's going on. So for this one, you can see there's squares printing again. Right here is kind of what you're looking for consistency. It's going to be a smooth bead though. It's not going to be flaked out like this. So you can see that it's being ripped off the surface because it can't adhere in this corner. So it's just turning this little thing correctly down here for the wheel to align that. But the filament on this printer is almost a year out in the open air, so it's got some issues there. But right here is the issue, so that wheel needs some adjustment. It's easier for me to do it when I'm actually in front of it. From a distance, obviously I can't move the wheels. Here's consistency that you're looking for the outside. It's just a smooth bead where it's smeared across the surface. So let's check on this, see if it's done. Okay, it just finished, so we're gonna do a reboot on this real quick. So restart now, proceed. It's gonna want me to upgrade a bunch of things, but we're gonna have to wait on that. But you can see how awful that is in this corner. So let's see if we can get back into this. Okay, it looks like it may have rebooted. Later. It's telling me there's an update. So we're not going to worry about all this stuff. We do have Klipper now in here. So let's see if we can connect. So I'm going to jump around on the commands here real quick. So if we go over to Klipper, we've already basically, well, we haven't installed it yet, so we might as well do that. So I'm going to copy this, go to Terraterm, paste, and do this install real quick. This might take some time as well. And sometimes you have to reload it a second time for Git. For some reason it doesn't like to adhere the first time for all the directories. But that's just something weird about it. So this is going to finish any second, hopefully. Check on the printer while we're at it. So at least you can see where the errors are over in here. And if you can't hear the clicking noise, that means you're too close to the surface. So that can be resolved by adjusting the surface up or down. When you hear clicking, it means it's too close. When you see no adherence like this, it means it's too far away. So this corner is different from the other ones. These ones should go down a little and this one should go up a little. Okay. So we can run the shell script now to install. We have to use the password, which is raspberry. And then we have to wait for this to install, which takes forever. And it's going to be doing some more downloads. So one of the tricks that I like to use when I'm having surface adhesion issues, I'll show you this real quick. I'm going to click here, delete this, or hit Control A, then delete. But if I want to print something else, I have to find a model real quick. So let me find an old design. Let's see, recent light clips. So let me drop this in. First I gotta render it. You might hear a loud ding any second because I'm rendering something. There we go. So if I go over to export XTL, you can now see what I'm looking for. I'm going to drop a light clip in here. So currently this is kind of hard to print because it slides off the surface. So one of the tricks you can do is you can preview what you're seeing. There's no layers at the moment because it's not sliced, so we'll click slice. And now you can see there's something down here that causes it to adhere to the surface. So that's one way around the problem of adherence. You put a little layer here that holds everything in place. So I hope that's helpful for information that sometimes is not covered. But let me check on the printer again. And it's a total mess. Awesome. But you know where the error is. It's over in here. And there might be some too close over here. So let's go back over to TerraTerm. This looks like it's going to take about 5 minutes. So I'll let you guys watch that for a second while I run outside. Okay, it's getting close. Sorry, I was checking on the snow. We might have to reboot this again. See what we got over here. I'm gonna clean this surface off real quick. And we'll print the clip just so you can see this go. Hopefully it'll work out better. But let's check on this. So we're almost there. As you can see, it's kind of time consuming to do an install sometimes. Might be easier just to walk away and wait for it. But let's see if the printer is actually about to print. Well, it's getting warmer. Okay, that finished. So let's first see if we can see the actual device. So it doesn't see it. So let's go over to the Klipper directory. Was it make menu config? Might be that we're just messing up the directions here. $100 MHz smoothie board, USB. Is there anything about the clock maybe? Apparently not. So exit, yes, make. Then we have to figure out this is 7, so all we have to do is this. Klipper out. Might have to refresh it. There we go. Copy that over. Overwrite. Go back over to here. Delete firmware. Need to rename this to firmware. And then copy it over. Okay. Drop this in here. Go back over to the desktop. Right click. Send to USB drive. Says it's there, so let's go back over to the desktop, pop it out, pop it in here, plug it in, give that a second to load, and let's see if we can see it. Nothing. So what about this board do we not know? So let's go over to Big Tree Tech. See if we can find anything out about this board. Instruction manual. (32-bit). It's a Core M3 series LPC 1768. So let's go back over here. It's not helping. Is there an M3 in here maybe? Does not look like it. So let's exit. Let's do a reboot. It's going to take a second, obviously. When this pops up, we can do another Terra term. Any second now. Let's check on this. And that's horrible. So we'll cancel that. It's going to take a second for the commands to filter out. There we go. Okay, now we're good. Reconnect. Continue. Pi. Raspberry. Let's try the command again. Not sure if I ever tried this board before, but it should work. There it is. So it was a reboot. So let's go back to the other board and see if that was the issue, because we know it works here now. So in theory it should work on the other board. So let's go back over to the workbench. I'm going to power this down, move this over. I'm going to put this one back down. Connect the USB. Disconnect it from the other one. Then I need the power again. I'm going to power this up. We're going to disconnect here. And this one's going to be a new IP address, so I gotta double check to see what it is. So all I'm doing is looking at my router for connected devices. I'm guessing it's gonna be 5, but I could be wrong. So maybe we can check over here too. And it is 5. So let's go back over to TerraTerm. Say this is number 5. Continue. Pi. Raspberry. And then we'll check to see what the actual configuration is. And it works. So maybe there's a build issue where I forgot to reboot on the Raspberry Pi. But my guess is there's something going on with the build. But now it should, in theory, work. So that's really weird with the Raspberry Pi 2 for 0. So the Raspberry Pi 02W. But now we can actually see it. We can actually finish the setup. And essentially the setup is setting up a Klipper file. So there's a bunch of places where you can get those. So like config reference, maybe. This will tell you how to configure it, but there's actually a page they have someplace for this. Let me see if I can find it real quick. This might take a second. There we go. Config directory. So we're looking for the SKR 1.3. There's the SKR 2. There's the 1.3. So essentially it's going to be this. So let me see if I can highlight it or copy it. Okay, copy raw. Go over to here. We don't have Klipper installed on this one, so we got to do that real quick. So plugin manager, get more. Klipper. It's OctoClipper. We might have to reboot to get this up and running. And then we're going to have all sorts of issues that we're going to have to deal with on this one. So that's done. So now it's going to restart, proceed. So we'll have Klipper in a second to work with as soon as this finishes rebooting. Now it's probably going to give us errors, and then I have to work out which those errors occurs. And my guess is they're probably thermistor errors, and we may have to power the board, which I might have to move some stuff around. But let's see what we get first. So Klipper, show the editor, paste what we just copied, save. Okay. So let's try restarting this. So we're going to do a connect. And now we got other issues that we need to address. And let's see if the config is in there. Looks like it is. And we still have issues, so let's go back over to the desktop. And you can't see what I'm doing. That's awesome. So essentially what I did is I went in here, highlighted all, and then pasted the configuration. And then I said save and close. And the issue that I'm now getting is another issue. And this, I think, is related to thermistors. It could also be the way we're trying to connect. So what we can do first is fix the actual issues on the board. So I'm going to power this down for a second. And I'm going to connect the two thermistors down here with faked out ones. I just got to find them. So I'm pulling out some thermistors now, making a slight mess of the floor. So we got thermistors. Let me pack all this back up. Okay, so we're going to do one thermistor over here. Move this off to the side. Another thermistor over here. And we'll see if this takes care of some of the issues. So that's for the heat bed and hot end. So I'm going to plug this back in. And we're going to go back over to the desktop, and we're going to see if this resolves part of the issue. So let's see what we got here. So there is another issue that I forgot about, and that's easy to fix. In here, there's an MCU that we need to adjust. And this is what it looks like. That's what we need to fix. So I'm going to copy the bottom part of this line, paste it down here, hit the space bar. Then I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to copy this line and you'll see what's going on. So I'll paste it here. So we'll hit backspace, backspace, end of line, enter. We'll save and close. And then we'll try and reconnect again. See what the error message is now. So it looks like we have a speed issue. And we might have to restart the actual system. So let's try that. As you can see, it's been a while since I set this up, and I've never done it for SKR 1.3. And it's not a full system, so things are going to be interesting. So hopefully this will flip in a second. That's still a mess. Let's try to refresh. That might be why. Okay, ADC out of range. Let's see, generally occurs when temperature exceeds. So let's go into the editor and see what's going on. Now we changed that. Now it might have to do with these. So we have to find the actual temperature sensors. So there's a heat pin right here, which is P2. And it thinks it's a different sensor possibly. And then there's a sensor pin. So we got to understand those. So that's the heat bed. And this should be on the SKR 1.3. Then there's one extruder, and there's probably another sense pin here. So P27. So if we go over to here, we go back, and we try and get a picture of the board for the pinouts. What we're looking at is TH, so I'm not connected to the correct one over here, so it should be this and this. So if we go back over to the board, power it down, take this out, if it comes out, hang on a second. And we plug it in over here. Let me weight these down so that they're safer. Plug it back in. Now let's go back over and see if we can connect to it. So close out of here, connect. Looks like we still have a similar issue. So there's another setting in here. that might be relevant. Not sure which speed it is, but there's still other issues we have to work out. So let's go back over to the diagram, and it's P023 and then P024. So if we go into here and we go to the editor, this is the heat bed, which is P023, and then the extruder, let's see, sense pin. So we got to find the sense pin, P24. That looks correct too. So it looks like we're good there. So let's try a reboot again. This looks more fluid when I'm doing it in a tutorial, because I'm usually working from a knowledge of I've done it once or twice before I show you. This one I'm actually figuring out on the fly, so it looks very messy, and there may be other issues where I have to power the board, so we'll address that in a minute. But I like to do this on the bench before I do anything else. So let's reload this and see if we can get some connectivity. This is taking a minute to actually connect, so. Okay, it's working now. So I guess it was a reboot. That was one of the issues, then possibly this. But we can always check that by disconnecting. Going over to here, changing this to auto, save. And then we can try and connect again. So it was a reboot. So at least we know what the issue was there. So that's how you get it set up for the SKR. Obviously I can't do any stepping right now, but there are examples of stepping. So if I go over to the Klipper page and I go back to config, there's other configurations for examples. So they're going to have something in here about steppers. Thing is, I have to find it, so let's try searching on TMC. That's not good. So it might be in the file, but there's Cartesian. So that's the type of printer that is usually a Prusa. Core XY, Delta, Extra, Example Extra. That doesn't show us anything. Let's see. Example config, that's useless. I know they have something about steppers in here, so we might be able to cheat by looking at one of these. So you can see how they do the steppers. These are actually soldered onto the board. So you can see that that is stepper X, which relates to this up here. And so the pins are up above, but it also adds additional pins in here. And the same thing is going on here. So now you know how to do TMC. And then the extruder is the same method. And then of course the heat bed pins, we already looked at that a second ago. And then there's other stuff. Now I don't know how to get the display working yet, but there probably is going to be some example in here of certain displays. So let's see if we can find one in the SKR 1.3. Oh, they even have the examples of the pins down here for different types of steppers. Then they have display pins, so you can get certain displays working. The TFT, I think you can only use it as a RepRap full graphics smart controller. So these pins might be relevant depending upon the configuration. And then of course it says see sample LCD config. So maybe there is something up here or down here. So let's see. It says what type of display. So you can see there's different types. MKS Mini. I don't see a TFT yet. There's FiSec Mini, which is similar to the ones above. NeoPixel. So I don't see an example of a TFT in here. Then there's Raspberry Pi config. So I guess there's some more information that you can look up, but this actually is very useful when working with Klipper. But it looks like we finally figured out the configuration, as messy as it was, because now we can disconnect and reconnect. So I know that we can communicate with the board in theory. So if we go over to terminal, maybe we can type M119 and see what happens. And it gives a response right here. So they all say triggered right now because there's nothing connected. So if I were to grab an Endstop and stick it in there, you'd see a difference. So let's try that. So I'm going to power this down. I'm going to find an Endstop. So whenever I connect an Endstop, I'd like to check what the pins are, because I know that the voltage is probably on top. So to do that, I like to go over to the manual and see what they are. So these are the pins, so we can do X. So it's 5 volts, ground, and then signal. So we need ground and signal for this particular Endstop. So the black and red are going to be ground and signal. We'll stick it in there. And so it's the bottom 2 pins. We'll plug it back in. Then what we'll do is we'll go back over to OctoPrint. We'll disconnect, reconnect. Hopefully. There we go. I may have just disconnected again, but we'll find out. I'll type M119 and we need to reconnect. So I'll type M119 and at the moment we're not getting anything. So we might have to reboot. Okay, so let's reboot this and see what happens. Could be that I just pulled the power on it. But I'll see if I can move this into the camera range so you can see what's going on. So essentially, I'm going to actuate this with my finger when it comes back up. So let's see what we got here. It's probably going to take a second. There we go. Reload. It's not as fast as I thought it should be, but we'll find out why. So Klipper might not be the best thing for the Pi 02, but let's see what we get. So we're connected, so M119, enter. So now you can see it says open, so I can trigger this now with my finger. So if I go over to here, put my finger down, go back over to the desktop, do M119 again. Now it says triggered. So we know that works. So that's how I usually test things out before I actually put them all together, is just piecemeal. But I think I've been going for, what is it, almost an hour? Well, 2 hours, sorry. So I think I might need to take a break so I can work on some stuff. But the SKR version 2 that someone was asking about with this probably will work the same way. You may have to build it outside and then bring it in, but I am unsure. So, I mean, if I could pull the other SKR out of the machine, actually I might have one. We might be able to try it real quick. So let's try that real quick. So TerraTerm. Let me bring it up so you can see what I'm doing. Cancel, bring this over. I'm gonna connect. The number's 5. Continue. Pi, Raspberry. And I might have an old one that we can work on. Let me just find it. Okay, it's in one of my boxes. Let me see if it's in the other room. It looks like I can't find the SKR2. I know where one is. It's in the printer, and the other one I had stored someplace else. Guess that's gonna have to wait for another day, but essentially it's the same thing. You're just gonna go into here to find the directions. So install, you'll navigate to this directory, paste these two commands, hit enter again, and then you got to figure out the processor. So you're going to go down to here, right click, or right arrow, pardon me. It's STM32, and then which one I don't know off the top of my head, so we'll have to find it, but I think it's 407. And then we'll leave everything else alone by default, and then you just hit the escape button, yes, and then make. And I think that will set it correctly. Let me double check the actual config. So if I go over to VS Code, I can cheat by going to, let me get to it up here. So if we go into the STM32, we might be able to find it. It's F4. So there's the SKR2. So we can cheat now, and we can go back to core, boards.h, search on SKR, I think it's underscore B2 or B2 or 2. Let's see what we got here. There we go. So the board type is 407. So STM32 407 right here. So we have the right board type. So then essentially it's just grabbing it, loading it, and testing it. So I hope that answered everyone's questions. I need to take a break because I'm starting to stutter. So everyone take care, be safe, and I'll catch up with you on my next videos.